Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday morning worship service of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church in Naperville, Illinois. I am Nell Haslett Bruce, a member of your Board of Trustees. We're glad you're here, whether you are present in the sanctuary this morning or watching remotely. It is so good to be together. We welcome you to our church and invite you to get to know us better during and after the service. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many paths to truth and meaning, and we support one another on our spiritual and religious journeys while holding ourselves in covenant through our shared 7 principles. The mission of DuPage UU Church is to gather as an inclusive community to grow in character, mind, and spirit, and to transform the world toward fairness, love, and compassion. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, wherever you are in the world, you are welcome here. Today, as most Sundays, we worship as a multi-generational community. Before we begin, quietly take a moment to be aware of those of us sharing the space. Let us recognize the hearts of our whole community, from our eldest to our youngest and all those in between. Let us embody the beauty of this all-church community, even when there are a few more wiggles, giggles, and chatter. If you feel a need to move to a quieter or less active space, feel free to do so. No harm, no foul. Let us remind ourselves to listen carefully and calm our minds. Begin by breathing peace and joy into this sacred space. You are surrounded by the love of this community. All and all ages are welcome. Our adult learning team is excited to unveil not just one, but 2 inspiring workshop series designed to enrich and empower our church community. In our ongoing commitment to foster inclusivity and understanding, we proudly present these series focusing on graceful preparation and transgender inclusion in our congregations. Our Graceful Preparation series contains 4 independent Saturday morning workshops that aim to explore the beauty and challenges of growing older while equipping participants with invaluable insights and practical strategies. These workshops are for elders, caregivers, and those who wish to be prepared. In our goal to create a welcoming and affirming space for all members of our congregation, we're excited to introduce the Transgender Inclusion in our Congregation workshop series. This series is a pivotal step toward deepening our understanding and fostering greater empathy and support for our transgender siblings. We encourage all members of our congregation to participate actively in these transformative workshops. More information and links to register for these workshops can be found on the website, weekly emails, Facebook, and in the video kiosk in Creeves Hall. Now, if you are online, I invite you to greet each other through the chat, and if you are present here, I invite you to turn to someone you did not come with and greet them with a wave and a good morning greeting.
light this chalice for today for our First Unitarian Universalist principle. We believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
Good morning. Welcome to this place of love, of communal flourishing. We enter this worship space to open our hearts, to expand our minds, and to see the sacred within each other. Come, let us worship together.
Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 318, We Would Be One.
Please join me in reciting our mission. We gather as an inclusive community to grow in character, mind, and spirit, and to transform the world towards fairness, love, and compassion.
Our vision of a beloved community is rooted in the relationships that we have with each other, our world, and creation. Each week, we offer the opportunity to share aloud our joys and concerns. Today's flowers were given in honor of the gender-expansive rainbow. And as we have held in our hearts for the past many months, we continue to hold the innocent lives impacted in Israel and Palestine by the conflict and war that is present there. Even when the world weighs on us, our relationships here hold us in moments of sorrow and celebrate with us in moments of joy. Whether your cares are shared aloud or held in your hearts, please know that this community cares for one another. Our meditative prayer today is a poem from Trisha Goodwin called Bless Yourself. Please join me in its reading. May you never again feel paved over, trying to grow while forced to make yourself palatable to tradition's sensibilities. Breathe now. eyes closed, hands to sternum, feeling the truth of fecundity, guidance, love growing within your own being. As what cemented you erodes, becoming shifting sand, turn to the depths of your own heart and let her hold you, ground you, nurture all your secret, sacred longings until they stretch to the light, opening, unfurling, drawing strength from new roots. Bless yourself the way the earth blesses herself, with growth and abundance and seed and dormancy and devastation and rebirth. Know how unimaginably expansive you are compared to the smallness of convention's constraints, how rooted you are in your own belovedness even when you forget. May your remembering, reconnecting, reaching into the depths of your spirit, your heart's own rich soil, nourish your becoming. So I wish to invite any children or those young at heart to come forward. I can always count on you, Kat. Always count on me. All right, if I say peanut butter, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Jelly. What if I said marshmallows? What would be the first thing that comes to mind? S'mores, yeah. So why do you think we think peanut butter and jelly or marshmallows with s'mores go together? Do you know? Because they do. But do they have to go together? No. So our brains put things together really quickly. So quickly that we don't even think about it, like peanut butter and jelly. And our brains do these shortcuts because there's so much information in the world that it can become overwhelming when we have to think about everything, right? So our brains put things together because, whoo, that was really loud, because they have to go, not because they have to go together, but because that's just what we've always known, like peanut butter and jelly, right? So let me ask you, what do we put peanut butter and jelly on? Bread. Yes. But does it have to go on bread? No. What if I put peanut butter and jelly on a rice cake? Yeah, right? Yeah, yes. I have a friend who does this. They put peanut butter and jelly on a rice cake because they can't eat bread. It was really weird, though, the first time I saw this. You think it's a little weird? It's okay to think it's a little weird, just because it's not the usual thing that we put peanut butter and jelly on, right? So thinking that something must go with something else, like peanut butter with jelly on bread, is something called implicit bias. That's a really big word, right? Or a phrase. So implicit means automatic, and bias means something you lean towards. So implicit bias is something that you automatically lean towards without thinking about it at all, like peanut butter and jelly. We have implicit biases for everything, including implicit biases towards people. So when I say the word teacher, what gender do you think about? A girl? A woman? Yeah. If I say doctor, what gender? Male? Yeah. Doesn't mean that boys can't be teachers or that girls can't be doctors. It's just that because for so long teachers were always women and doctors were always men, that our brains automatically connect those things. It just is that way. So we have to think about that when we think about all of the implicit biases. We know, in fact, that there are many different genders, not just male or female, right? And we know that some people might feel the gender on their inside differently than how they express it on their outside. Gender isn't something you can tell by looking at someone, can you? Because who can wear dresses? Anybody. Who can wear makeup? Anybody. Who can wear long hair? Anybody. Who can have short hair? Anybody. So you can't tell what gender someone is just by looking at them. So we have to retrain our brains to think a little differently, right? And we have to retrain our brains so that we don't automatically assume someone is a she or a he. They could be a they, or a z, or a per, short for person. Or maybe they want any sort of pronoun, and they want you to just use their name. That's okay, right? It doesn't tell us anything about who they are. It just tells us what it forces us to get to know each other. So we have to try really hard to change the way our brains are organized so that we can move away from implicit bias. So what happens if we think about peanut butter and jelly differently, and marshmallows and s'mores differently? What would happen if we put peanut butter on a sandwich with marshmallow fluff and bananas? Does that sound like a good sandwich? You're in? It's called a fluffernutter. And you don't actually have to use peanut butter. You could use almond butter or sunflower butter or cashew butter if you don't like peanut butter. You can use all different kinds, or even Nutella. Right? So we have to start thinking about our world a little differently and not just assume that peanut butter has to go on bread with jelly, but it could go on rice cakes with marshmallow fluff and bananas, right? So I think you should go home, and I think you should ask your parents to make you a fluffernutter sandwich. Really. Yeah. Then your parents are here, and now they have the special recipe. I think you should go home and ask your parents to make you a fluffernutter sandwich, and remember that just because something has always gone with something else doesn't mean it always has to, right? That's what it means to be Unitarian Universalist, to talk to people, to learn from them, and not to assume something is the way it's supposed to be, but think about it in a different way, right? Thank you for coming up with me and chatting. We're going to sing now to you, and you can go back to your family or to Grace Space if you'd like, okay?
Giving of our treasure is how we reciprocate the many gifts we are given by this community. Your contribution supports the programs and operations of DuPage UU Church. Giving is also how we live our values in the world. Each month, we share our offerings with an organization nominated by the congregation and selected by the special offering team. This month's special collection recipient is Riverwalk Adult Day Services, which was founded in 1983 by a group of 15 religious institutions, including DUUC, who recognized the desire and benefits for adults to age in place at home, but who could not be left at home alone. Riverwalk Adult Day Services has provided over 700,000 hours of service to participants, allowing their caregivers the peace of mind knowing that their loved ones are being cared for in a safe and nurturing environment. Their mission is to provide a safe, social, stimulating environment for adults in need of daytime care. The morning's offering to support the work of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church and Riverwalk Adult Day Services is given and received in a spirit of generosity and gratitude. Our reading today is from Sikh activist Valerie Carr's book, See No Stranger. If you cringe when people say that love is the answer, I do too. I am not talking about sentimentality or civility or thoughts and prayers. I am talking about love as labor, a conscious embodied practice. Social reformers and spiritual teachers through history led entire nonviolent movements anchored in the ethic of love. Time and again, people gave their bodies and breath for one another, not only in the face of fire hoses and firing squads, but also in the quieter venues of their daily lives. Black feminists like Bell Hooks have long envisioned a world where the love ethic is a foundation for all arenas of our society. It's time to reclaim love as a force for justice. Here is my offering. Love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving, a choice we make over and over again. Love as labor can be taught, modeled, and practiced. This labor engages all our emotions, Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger protects that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love. Revolutionary love is the choice to labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves in order to transform the world around us. It begins with wonder. You are a part of me I do not yet know. It is not a formal code or prescription, but an orientation to life that is personal and political, sustained by joy. Loving only ourselves is escapism. Loving only our opponents is self-loathing. Loving only others is ineffective. All three practices together make love revolutionary, and revolutionary love can only be practiced in community.
Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 1053, How Could Anyone? We'll be doing this 3 times.
There was a popular meme that went around Facebook near the beginning of the Trump presidency. It said something to the effect of, "I don't know how to make you care about other people." It was meant to be snark, of course, but there's also truth in this. For many on the far right of the political spectrum, there is a distancing away from people, a hiding behind the political topic of the day to avoid thinking about the people that are affected. Case in point, raising the minimum wage may mean you cannot go out to eat as often, but it means that people get paid enough to afford the bare minimum. Ideally, if you want to complain about raising the minimum wage, you should complain about the capitalist system that makes the profit of margin so high that a CEO has such excessive wealth, they could probably feed a small country. Hiding behind the political topic of the day means avoiding seeing the people for whom the topic impacts, and allows one to stay at the basic level of simplicity rather than immerse oneself in complexity. Complexity, of course, is a thing we've spoken about for months as vital to understanding power and oppression. This example I name is one I have shared time and again with my Republican extended family. And so that meme, when it makes its rounds, is something that I feel deeply in my bones, for I truly, truly cannot make someone care about another. Maybe, though, care is not the right word. The word care implies at least the bare minimum: food, clothes, shelter. And I would suggest that most of the time we struggle with the bare minimum. I think about the ways that we care for the unhoused in our world, enforcing strict guidelines about shelters, enforcing a curfew in a homeless shelter, providing mats over actual beds, sometimes separating families by gender. Our care for the unhoused feels more like a loosely run prison than anything I would actually consider care. The word care, in my understanding, should imply dignity. Care should hold the worth of a human life at its center, respecting the autonomy and dignity of a person. Our care systems, like welfare, homeless solutions, mental health treatment, all reinforce the power of the privileged over the humanity of the oppressed. The supremacy of money and power is emphasized through the control of the freedom of those in need. Never mind that the system itself might be the reason one is in a place of need to begin with, we will still require you to go through the degrading hoops that belittle your self-worth before we offer assistance, because heaven forbid my money or power go to someone who might not even abuse it, but simply use it in ways that I do not deem important or necessary. No, the word care, whatever its original uses were, is not the right word to use when we consider the abuses of power and privilege of the few over that of the many. After all, I believe that my extended family cares for my Black, Indigenous, queer immediate family, but politically and religiously, they vote against my immediate family at every election. So when I think about the many, many issues that have been oversimplified politically, which allow us to hide behind a smoke screen while people's actual lives are at stake, the word care kind of seems a little ridiculous. Even if we could make someone care for another person, we've moved so far away from what caring actually means. In fact, this might even be the problem with the political left. We care so much that we wish to fix everything, but only to a certain point. Sometimes we Unitarian Universalists are good at this. Give us a service project, volunteer our time, donate food and clothes. We're all in. The problem is that service projects never actually change the system of oppression. For justice work to be truly effective, we first need to educate ourselves. I can't tell you how many times I have heard a nonprofit leader say that they appreciated a volunteer's work until that volunteer made a microaggression against someone the nonprofit was helping. And when that volunteer was called out, they left in a state of fragility rather than engaging in repentance and repair. Educating ourselves helps us to do better service work, and it means we truly practice what we preach. But we also need to advocate at the system level to ensure that change is made to the structures that reinforce oppression. Volunteering in a prison, for instance, is a beautiful and wonderful act of service, especially when one is educated on issues of incarceration, making sure that harm is not further perpetuated. But it must also include further advocacy to change the system that incarcerates folks for petty crimes enforced by racism that disproportionately affects families of color. Advocacy and education are even more important than the service work we so often wish to engage in. but all three are necessary for change. One might argue that the political left, a side that claims to care for the people, is willing to care only as long as it doesn't inconvenience them. Service work can be a Band-Aid for a person rather than the transformative shift to bring justice to the world through systemic change. Justice work requires that we make fundamental shifts in our whole state of being. Justice work is not care, but embracing the inherent worth and dignity of another in totality. As I spilled on myself, of course. The crux of the matter is that the word care does not include the worth and dignity of every person. The word care, as we use it today, is steeped in the systems of oppression that reinforce the power over another rather than the liberatory practices that free us to find life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In fact, the care for others perpetuated by the far right is a twisted sort of care that claims a moral truth based upon some bygone era, one based upon purity values left over from white colonizers and a religious understanding from a literal interpretation of the Christian Bible that drives the right in its attempt to limit liberation. These values, though, are not any sort of biblical truths that I know of. Any truths claimed to be found in the Bible must be viewed through a lens of cultural and societal influences of the time period in which they were written. We must always apply a lens of critique to truths claimed from any source, be it religious, scientific, or any other form. Moreover, critique should be rooted not in the care of people, but rooted in humanity itself, the inherent worth and dignity present in each of us. There's a reason so many Unitarian Universalists find meaning in our first principle, the affirmation and promotion of the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It's because our world is filled with hate and othering. It's because so many people hide behind a supposed moral high ground on a particular issue rather than seeing the person at the center. In the inherent worth and dignity of another person, we find a profound simplicity that life matters. And we are faced with profound complexity that even when we do not live into our full potential, we are worthy. Rooted in this principle is the universal salvation that gifts us all with the hope of new beginnings, even when we are not at our best. And this means even people who perpetuate the worst of the world's sins. This principle does not give us free rein to act with no repercussions. Those who commit genocide do not get a free pass, even while they hold dignity and worth. This simply complex principle says that salvation, that is the potential to begin again, is always present when we embrace our worth and dignity to repair, repent, and atone. We don't get a free ride because we have dignity and worth. No, in fact, our dignity and worth means that we owe it to ourselves to be better. And when we ignore our own inherent worth and dignity by oppressing the inherent worth and dignity of others, we must be called to account to end the cycle of despair and violence in order to return towards love, towards flourishing. The moral high ground of the right in Oklahoma claimed that bathrooms should be binary, male and female. It was a preservation, they said, of family values that claim the purity of gender, especially that of women. Here in those terms, the fascist rhetoric we spoke about in August. Fascism claims purity. It claims the gender binary and the need to protect the weak feminine. It speaks of some previous era as one of ideal immorality. In this moral high ground of care for the innocent, the nuclear family, the gender binary, there is no care for the inherent worth and dignity. A moral high ground only stands if it's universal. The particular will never be able to stand long. In fact, a moral high ground that focuses on a particular identity will forever become more and more narrow until only the powerful are left standing. The care that the Oklahoma state government promoted was for a certain type of person, a cisgender, heteronormative, white person. Care was defined with specifically narrow parameters. Next, Benedict was a beautiful transgender or gender-expansive teenager who needed to use the bathroom, a need which is a human right that could fall under life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness, perhaps all three. Instead, Next lost all three of them. Using the bathroom is not a situation in which one should ever have to consider whether they are a person or not. The issue of care, which is clearly not actually care, should not be an issue when using the bathroom. In fact, the basic fundamentals of being a person should never be up for debate. We live in a complex world with complex people who show their beauty in all the complex variety that nature provides. Sometimes we may struggle with the ways that people express themselves in the natural variety of life. We usually struggle with expression because expression changes from generation to generation, and newness is always disconcerting. We struggle with expression sometimes because we're taught that social constructs, things like race and gender, are biologically determined, when in fact they are not. But unless that natural expression imposes itself on your own inherent worth and dignity, which is very highly unlikely, that expression is not a threat, but the beauty of another person. While complexity permeates the politics in today's age, and it needs to be if we're going to find a way forward, there is nothing complex in the death of 16-year-old Next Benedict. There is nothing complex in the knowledge that Next held inherent worth and dignity. There is nothing complex in that all gender expansive people hold inherent worth and dignity. There is only the simplicity of a beautiful life that has ended because of hate, discomfort, and a refusal to see another. I cannot get anyone else to care for another person, but our faith requires us to see and uphold the inherent worth and dignity of another person, respecting every person's rights. We cannot be Unitarian Universalist otherwise. Next was a part of me that I did not yet know. Next was a part of you that you did not yet know. And now we will never have the opportunity to know Next. But maybe there's someone else we have the opportunity to know. May it be so.
Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 1017, Building a New Way.
We
Each day, we are given the opportunity to affirm and promote another person's inherent worth and dignity. And today is just such a day. I would like you to turn to someone you did not come with. I'd like you to look them in the eye, and I would like you to tell them that they are worthy. Please do that now. You are all worthy, every one of you. And let's get educated. So we are offering an educational opportunity from the UU Transforming Hearts Collective this month called Transgender Inclusion in Congregations. And there will be an online group and an in-person group. So if you'd like to join, you can go to online or email Steve. If you go online, go to our Realm database. And sign up. Steve Cooper, our Director of Religious Education, you can email him as well. It's a, I believe, 6-week session, but it might be 8 weeks, where you can either meet in person on a Sunday afternoon or Monday online via Zoom to learn more about how we can be more welcoming as a congregation. So as you leave this place, take a moment every day to find your inherent worth and dignity, and then spread it to those around you.
Please join me in reading our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish the light of this chalice, but not the light in our hearts. Until we meet again, may the warmth of this community carry you.
And before you actually leave, if you would draw your attention to the screen, our Capital Campaign Leadership team has a special announcement they'd like to share with you.
For nearly 70 years, the DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church has been a beacon. We stand for liberal religion. We stand for equality and justice in our community. Over time, we've bravely supported church growth through expansions and program development. Now we have a chance to embrace our future. This future is for us and for our members, children, and future generations. We invite you to mindfully consider contributing to the Embracing Our Future campaign. We can pay off our loans and interest, then we can use the money for vital programs and resources. Imagine the impact on our music program, also on our religious education, adult learning, social justice work, and membership growth. In these times of isolation and uncertainty, we need our church more than ever. The world needs our faith, and our children need us to create a fairer, more civil, safer, and freer world. Let's come together and make this world a reality. Join us for this transformative journey.
And if you have any questions, please see Kat Gelder or Dean Rushke after the service.